We're Afro American people with Afro American soul. We're Afro American people with Afro American soul.
Good evening and welcome to Black Milwaukee, an oral history project. My name is William Rogers, and I am the president of the Association for the Study of Afro-American Life and History, the organization sponsoring this program this evening. We are presently embarking upon a program to interview many of Milwaukee's fine and outstanding citizens who have been here over long periods of time, members who are in the social, political, and religious arena of our community and who have contributed so heavily to African-American life and history here in this city. So today our discussion will focus in on the religious aspect of our community. We will be talking with one of the founding members of one of Milwaukee's fine African-American churches. Interviewing our guest this evening will be Miss Rene Pace, who is a high school student who will be interviewing our guest. And then our guest is Mrs. McKenzie, who is one of the founding members of Mount Moriah Baptist Church. Also with her will be Miss Tabia Nicholas. She will also be interviewing Mrs. McKenzie. She's a student at Mesmer High School and also a member of Mount Moriah Church. So we will be talking with Mrs. McKenzie this afternoon and looking at some of the religious history of Milwaukee, Black Milwaukee, and looking at some of the things that she remembers basically about Milwaukee. And so to her, I welcome you this evening, Ms. McKenzie.
Thank
Welcome.
you,
Yes.
Mr. Brother High.
I'd like to start the questioning by asking you, how long have you been in Milwaukee?
Almost 43 years I have been living in Milwaukee.
And where was your home? Where did you come from originally?
Marianna, Arkansas.
I see. And you left Arkansas basically at that time and came directly straight to Milwaukee?
Yes, I did.
Yes, okay. What were some of the factors that contributed to you coming from Arkansas to Milwaukee?
Well, there was work going on here at that particular time. Of course, the war was over, but my husband was up here, and he was working, and he had been here ever since the war started mostly. Mm-hmm. During all that time, I was home, and we had 3 children, 3 girls, and he thought that he could make more here. He was very interested in his family, and he thought that he could make more money here, and he was wanted his children to go to school and have a good education he could afford for them, mm-hmm. and as much as they would accept. And so that was one of the reasons why mm-hmm. we come here to live here. And when we come here, we found that Milwaukee was a very good place for children to be reared up. Right. It was a nice, clean, wholesome city. When I say wholesome, I mean that there was no things in there going on here that you wouldn't be uneasy about your children going out, that they were going to be harmed in any way, mm-hmm. because we had good protection for them. The law was to protect your child, and if he caught him out on the street at a certain time, then he took him back home, he or she, whoever it was. They had a certain time to be at home all the time. Mm-hmm. And the parents, they didn't work. If there was a mother, they took care of them and see to them taking care of their children. Of course, I didn't work when I first came here because my children were young. And when I did go to get a job, I went down on 3rd Street at a 10-cent store down there, Freeman's 10-cent store at that particular time. And the manager asked me, did I have any children? And I told him yes. And he said, well, how many? I told him I had 3 girls. He told me, he said, asked me, did I have a husband? I told him yes. Asked me if my husband was working. I told him yes, my husband was working. He wanted to know what hours did he work. And I told him. And he said, well, and you would like to work full-time or part-time. I told him I would like to work part-time, and that I did. I worked at Freeman's 10-cent store on 3rd Street for about a year and a half, or maybe 2 years.
Was it a black-owned or white-owned business?
It was a white man that owned the store. He was the manager of it.
So he basically was kind of concerned about the family structure in terms of hiring you. You didn't want to make sure there was conflicts and with the children. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because there was a certain time they did not want both parents to be away from home working when they could be there at that particular time.
Right.
And so I took part-time work. I would work from about 2:30 in the evening until the store would close. It closed at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Now, let me ask you, so basically what you're saying is that when you came to Milwaukee, it was a different setting as naturally opposed to Arkansas. Arkansas, I assume at that time, was more of a rural area, the town that you came from?
Well, yes, it was.
And segregation was open then, I guess?
Segregation?
Yes, and doing it in Arkansas?
No, it wasn't open at that time. No, not when I came here. No, and we thought that there was a lot of things they could be exposed to here that they couldn't be exposed to there.
Right, in Arkansas.
And especially when it come down to education.
Right, right. Well, let me ask you, what were some of the, when you got to Milwaukee, had you participated in a church in those earlier years when you first arrived?
Yes, I did. I joined Canaan Baptist Church when I first came here.
I see. Who was the pastor there?
Reuben. And he lived about 2 years after I was here, maybe 2.5, something like that. And then he died. He got gas.
Now, I assume this was around 1940?
Yeah,
right,
but it was in 1950 when he died.
When he died, I see. And then you came to Mount Moriah, or the beginning years of Mount Moriah.
Yes, I did. And this church was organized under the Reverend C.O. Manning. He came to us from Dyersburg, Tennessee. And he was pastoring at Canaan, too, at one time. But after that, he was, well, they dismissed him from Canaan. And like churches will do sometimes. And he organized, he started, well, the people that was not, wanted him to organize a church. And he asked them to get him up, one lady, I believe, Mrs. Foster, and he asked her if he could find him 40 people, get him 40 names up. And then he would, organize the church.
What was the pastor's name again that wanted this done?
Reverend C.O. Manning, right. Charles Oscar Manning.
I see.
And he did. So if memory served me real right, it was the first Saturday night in May in 1955, I believe, when it was organized, if I make no mistake at the present. And at the night to organize the church, I was not present that night. I was working. And the next Sunday, I joined the church. He told me, he said, Sister McKenzie, you called me and you told me about taking your name, but I could not do that because they were going to organize the church. Now you will have to join the church. So I joined the church that Sunday, myself and my 2 youngest daughters. My oldest daughter was there when they organized the church. This church was organized on Mount Moriah, what I'm talking about. It was organized on Teutonia and North Avenue. I don't know the number just exactly. I can't remember. And I don't know the pastor's name. But anyway, in starting the church there, we had to pay $75 per month. And that had to be paid in advance. And we could not have service on Sundays no longer than 12 o'clock. We would have to be out the church at 12 because they would be coming in. Then we could go on Wednesday night and on a Saturday night, but just any other nights, no, we could not. And never a whole Sunday unless they were going visiting somewhere or some convention or something like that was going on, that was the only time we could. Well, we stayed there almost 2 years, and then we moved to down on Gamina Street. And there we were, and Reverend Manning got sick, and he died. Then in come the Reverend Bowens after that. And he stayed there about 7 or 8 years. But during that 7 or 8 years, I think I left and stayed about 7 years. Then at that particular time, they had moved to the present place where they are now. And that's 24, what's the name? I forget just, what is that address? 24 what?
Christine Lane.
Yeah, Christine Lane.
Right. Well, let's go back a minute to the early beginnings. I think Ms. Pace or either Tabia had a question that she wanted to ask you about the earlier beginning.
Ms. McKenzie, how long have you been a member of Mount Moriah?
Oh, well, I've been a member there for 28 years, or maybe 29.
Well, why Mount Moriah? What forces or influence have kept you there for the, those years that you were there?
Well, knowing that Reverend Manners was a good Christian minister, and he knew their Baptist doctrine well. And then in come Reverend Bowens, just right in behind him, a well-enlightened man. And I like the order of service and everything. And I like the way he preaches. I like he tries to preach the Bible, which he tells us how to live and how to treat our fellow man. And those things I enjoyed. And I had my 3 daughters at that particular time. And I wanted them to be exposed to the best of what we have at that particular time. Now, every day, everything don't stay the same thing. This is a progressing world that we are living in. And that is and they were progressive. Now, I know that God's word don't never change. It stays the same thing. But you must know how to compare it with the time when you're living in it. And so I found that out about both Reverend Manning and Reverend Bowens.
Was Reverend Manning a long-time resident of Mount Moriah?
No, he was not.
Oh, okay.
He was there about...
I'm sorry, Milwaukee. Long-time resident of Milwaukee.
That's what...
I'm sorry.
No, he was not. He only lived about 5 years while he was here.
Okay. Was he born in Milwaukee, Reverend Manning?
No, he was not born in Milwaukee.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think he was born in Arkansas, but he spent most of his time was spent in Memphis somewhere.
Memphis. His ministry began in a city other than Milwaukee? It was other ministries prior to Mount Moriah?
Yeah. I think he was in Tennessee, Memphis.
I see, that's Tennessee.
When he began preaching.
And then he came to Milwaukee. Then was he at a church then prior? What church was he at prior to Mount Moriah?
He was in Dyersburg, Tennessee.
I see.
But I don't remember the name of the church. He brought the picture of the church and showed it to us.
I see.
In fact, of the business, when I was in high school in the 11th and 12th grade, he was a classmate of mine.
Oh, I see.
Ms. McKenzie.
Yes?
How much of a struggle was it to move from Galena, where the church first started, to where we are today on Christine Lane?
Well, to try to get out to do work for the Lord, there are a lot of things you can't do like you're going to do in the world, and not be a Christian. And those things that we left alone. But we put God as priorities in our lives. And, of course, the struggle was kind of hard. Well, we expect those to be hard. But nevertheless, we made it through.
How did you overcome these struggles?
By the help of the good Lord. We would pray and ask the Lord to help us and bless us. And he did, because God knows when you mean things and when you do not mean things. And we as a whole, we know the Lord. We knew the Lord, and we know what we'd asked for. We felt that he was going to provide us with those things, and he did.
And what were some of the struggles that you had?
Well, now, some of the struggles was getting money. That was one of the struggles that we would have. And then some people would say, you can't do this and you can't do that. But as I said a few minutes ago, by the help of the Lord, and we praying, we made it through.
Well, why was Mount Moriah started? Was there a serious need for it, or, you know, just...
Well, there's always room for improvement everywhere when it comes to Christianity, and we saw the need that we needed a church, and that was one of the reasons why. It was to bring some of the people in. People was coming in here then from different places, you know, and they didn't have no church home. And so we started this church, and they would come and join. Some of them joined. All of them out themselves come. They did not join there, but so many of them come and join then. They liked the preaching, and they saw that we had a progressive minister and everything, and knowed how to teach the Bible and what to say, and how to teach young people and what to tell them and everything, and how to live, to be a Christian.
Do you recall some of the names of those founding members?
Yes, I can call some of the names. I just cannot remember all the names.
Okay.
Reverend Manning's wife was one of them. She was there. And my daughter, Savannah, who she's dead. Miss Laura is dead. She was one. And Mrs. She was Austin then. Miss Minor, you know Mrs. Mary Minor?
No.
She comes to there. She is one. Miss Nettie Clay is one. And Mrs. Jackson, Ann Jackson is one. And Brother Foster is one. Now, those are the people that I know was the founder of the church, what was there. And, of course, but he's dead. No, Reverend Fowler, Mount Moriah was going on when he was there. I remember he joined the church after it was started. And after it was to Mrs. Sturk and her family, but they weren't the, you asked me, those were the founders.
Right, founders, right. Yeah.
And let me see who else.
What about the associate members, ministers, I'm sorry, associate ministers?
Who were the associated members?
Along with Reverend Manning.
When he first started there, I can't remember an associated members.
Okay.
When he first started, he did not have one. But a little further on, this Fowler, you see Miss Vera Fowler, what's there now?
Right. Okay.
Well, her husband, he was one joined there after the church was started. That was the first one I remember. And on it began to grow from then on. And we had, there were quite a few young people, but you know, I just don't remember their names at all now, because I know my sister-in-law, well, she joined, she wasn't the founder there, but she joined there. She came, and she had a little boy, and Mr. Foster's son was small at that time. And there was another girl, she used to come there young. She was a young girl, she was not married. And she had 2 or 3 little sisters and brothers, and they were there.
What about the music?
Yeah, Ms. McKenzie, what any significant changes have taken place in the music at Mount Moriah?
Well, I'll tell you, we have, there's been quite a change in the music, though. Significant, I would say. Well, we never had any just bands or things like that, but we did have a drum. And we had, we had very, very, very good music. And we had one lady used to belong there. She could direct very nicely and things like that. And now, do you mean when the first started or after it started, or when you said change in the music?
Well, just during all the, like, through the years, through the 35 years, like different kind of music or singing, how has it changed?
Yes, it did. The gospel music, when they first started singing the gospel music, they didn't sing it quite rapidly as they sing now and everything. And that we did not have the cathedral choir to sing the hymns so that they had, which I like real well. I like the gospel music, but I don't like it sang so too loud, and I don't like patterning going on. I don't like that.
Ms. McKenzie, would you talk a little bit about the personality of Mount Moriah? How has it changed over the years?
Well, the personality, it's just about the same to me. I thought everybody that we come in contact with that was members there, they had very good, nice personality. They was friendly and everything like that. And I find that still going on. I think that was one of the reasons why some of them joined the church, on account of they found that this fellowship that we have, they enjoyed that and everything. That is just before the minister get up to preach, when he have us to fellowship with one another. Now, a whole lot of people I've heard them say they enjoy that. And I tell you, I enjoy the prayer. I'm coming down to myself, and I think the hymns that we sang before our prayer meeting, and that is like we sang, "The Lord make a way somehow," and all like that. I like that. And Jesus keep me near the cross, and Amazing Grace.
What a
I
friend
like
we have in
them, and
Jesus.
what a fellowship we have. All like that. We started off singing those kind of hymns like that, and I enjoyed that. And I think a whole lot of us enjoy it. I like to hear the words of anything. That's where I get the service from. That's the reason I don't like so much patting.
Ms. McKenzie, do you think the children were more involved, like in past years, than they are today?
More involved, what you mean in church?
Like in the church services?
Now, there has been a time that where that's kind of go and come. You see, you don't have the same group all the time. Sometimes, especially young people, sometimes it's just a different one, and they grow up and they be gone or left or something like that. At times it is, and at times it's not. See, then one while we had far more young people than we have now, far more. Well, they have gotten grown, and they have gone, you know, like that. And but we have, you know, a pretty good little bunch now. But one while it was a little lot livelier than what it is now.
Well, I know that the youth like to give the senior citizens gifts and cookies and things like that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that's something that's joyful, because you're doing something for the senior citizens that they enjoy. Young people enjoy anybody giving them anything like that, because so many people don't want to come in contact with the elder people. They would push them aside. They've been had their day. That's the way they'll sit, and they don't need this and they don't need the other. And that's the way. But I enjoy it, and I think I can. When I say that, I think I voiced the sentiments of most all of them in Mount Moriah.
Can we go back just 1 minute and discuss the transition to the new building, to the structure now? What was some of the struggles that you went through? Because anytime naturally you're moving into a new building and purchases and so forth, you know, how did that all develop? You know, can you give us a little history, a little background of that? You know, was Reuben Bowen with you then?
When we moved where they are now?
Right, Christine Lane. Was that a part of Reuben Bowen's development?
Yes. The year he moved, I was not there. I didn't go there till the next year after that.
I see.
But he's an aggressive pastor, and he tries to instill it into his congregation as to put God as priority in their lives. And if they do that, you know, he said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. He had that in mind for us to do and all, and work to that end. If we just let God, let him work those things out for us. But you got to be mean what you say and things like that, because he knows, God knows everything. He knows what we mean and what we do not mean. And with him being the kind of leader he is, that made it kind of hard at times, and at times it wasn't.
Right.
But sometimes it was.
It was just the basic struggles that you always go through. Exactly.
One thing don't stay the same all the time. No way.
Well, Ms. McKenzie, in your opinion, what was the glue that held Mount Moriah together for these 35 years?
The good Lord, with that good warm fellowship we have for one another, the love. Love will keep anything together if you love that person.
You always hear people say sometimes, you know, there's too many churches in Milwaukee. You got all these churches in Milwaukee. And a lot of times there are a lot of complaints about whether or not they are doing the things they should do. Can you comment on that, how you feel, basically from a historical perspective? You know, do we ever get enough churches? You know, the church has always been the backbone of our culture.
Yeah. So can we get, now oh, here's what I think about it. I think we should be more sincere when going to church than what we are.
I see.
There's a whole lot of times we just go to church and we think the minister going to do everything, but no, that isn't it. It's our place to help that minister bring people in and not be a, you know, not be a stumbling block to nobody. Sometimes I found some Christian being stumbling blocks in the way sometimes.
I see.
And no, I think with the churches that we have in Milwaukee, if we would be sincere in our ways of doing things and treat everybody like the Bible said for us to treat one another, we find it would be much better, better than what it is.
Right.
But if, may I say this, because the good Lord knows everything, he knew these kind of times was going to happen.
Right.
He knows that the Bible speaks of those times, and I believe what the Bible is saying.
Right.
And he knew those times was going to happen. But if we go to praying, we as Christian people, a whole lot of these things, I think God would ease them off away.
And I think you could probably speak with a lot of experience, because I understand you're 88 years young. Is that right?
84, not 80.
84 years young. Okay.
Yeah.
So add a few years to it. What about Mount Moriah's involvement in the things like the Civil Rights Movement? Because I know its development began in the early 50s and 60s, and that was a real crucial time in America. Education, the integration issues were coming up, and, you know, some of those things. Was Mount Moriah part of that Milwaukee struggle during those years? Do you remember?
Yes, I think so. Now, my daughter, she's dead and gone now. If she was living, she could tell you more about that than I could. But it was, and it wasn't hit too hard, if I can remember right now. But look like to me, everything was kind of calm after that.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So you kind of basically do remember the changes some of the changes that were occurring in, like, the education and so forth. I think Father Grappi was, there were protests and marches around some of that.
Oh, yeah. He did. He led for the black people and all. Grappi did. He did. He did many good things to help them out, you know.
Right.
And open up things for them that they did not know about, and did things.
Ms. McKenzie, can you talk about the early education that happened in Milwaukee, how it was back then?
Early education?
Because you had daughters in the public school system during that time, right?
No, my daughter did not teach.
No, I mean, they were students. Were they students?
Oh, yeah,
Right.
See, in the 40s and 50s, that's when they graduated. Yeah, well, it was real nice then for our children to go to school. And most of the black children lived way back on the, back on the south side. Not on the south side. Well, there wasn't any up this way very much. And most all of them went to Lincoln when they graduated from when they finished grade school. And they had, the discipline of the schools was real nice and everything, because they had a school for our young girls, if they were going to be expecting mothers, they went to school. They had a school down on Wells Street for them to go to, and that's where they would go. If all girls, they didn't go with the girls to Lincoln, unless there was an expecting mother. They'd send you over there. And the boys went to Tex if there was an expecting father. They did not mix the girls up together like they do today. And if they were caught out on the streets during school hour time, the policeman was going to ask you where you live and why you were out, or what was the trouble you wasn't in school. And the mothers if you had 3 or 4 children, they didn't allow the mothers to work. They did not work. They would, if they didn't have, if they were here and they didn't have nobody to take care of them or nothing like that, the welfare would, you know, take care of them. And then they would have some social workers to go around and see that those mothers taking care of those children. They would feed them, and they went to school and everything like that. And the standard of the education was very, very good. They had good school, and they had good conduct and everything at school.
Do you recall many black educators during the years that your children were in school? Were there many black teachers and educators then?
No, it was not. There was one lady at Roosevelt, and I remember, and I have forgotten her name. She came from Texas here, and she was a home economics teacher. Now, over at Lincoln High School, that's where my children went to school and graduated, there was one, a black man come over there before, he taught up here at North too. He's dead. And let me see, that during the time I was thinking about another lady coming in, but she wasn't there. Now that was just about all I can remember being educated. I know my younger children was up at Lloyd Street School, and there was not a black teacher there. They all was white. And I remember when we'd have Parent Teachers Association, there were only one black woman that was taking a part in that. Now and they had the Girl Scouts there. Oh, by the way, not changed. We had that at church too one while. And that's just about all I know about. And over that Lee Street School, I didn't know any.
Could you tell us a little bit about your school days? You know, where you went to school and how it was like?
Well, when I first started the school, that's been many, many years ago. Oh, my God. I can remember the first little, well, they said speeches then. I said, it was at the closing of school that year, myself and 3 or 4 little girls had just started the school, and we had, and this was in Arkansas, and we all had a little speech about, started off with Our Father. I remember that much. It was 3 of us, I think, at that particular time. And we went, after at that, where I went to another little school, and when I was in the, let me see, 6th, 7th, and my parents moved, and they moved in a place, and there was no school there hardly. Just, they'd have some schools sometime in the summertime, and sometimes they didn't.
So this was around, would you say, 1920s, 1930s? Was it?
No.
Oh.
Not when I first started school.
Okay.
This child asked me about when I started.
What years were that when you started?
When I started school? Must have been 1912 or something, because I was 6 years old, and I was born in 1906.
All right.
So
1912.
Must have been the year 1912, because I know I was 6 years old when I started the school.
So now these were basically naturally segregated schools in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, and this was out in the country where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so I got behind, but and them 3 or 4 months when I went to school then, they started you all. Of course, my parents had taught. They would teach ABCs way back then, but my parents had taught me my ABCs at home, and they had taught me how to read. They start with what they call a primer, Bendo primer, and I could read a little in that Bendo primer, nothing. But we would go there, and they'd teach us how to count, and had a chart, you know, and the ABCs on there, and you spell those words, and you learn how to count, you know. The teacher'd be there pointing out a one-room schoolhouse, you know, and everything like that. And as the time grew on a little longer, my father moved to a place, there was a schoolhouse and a church, and their little children, I think, it was so many children there. The smaller children was in the schoolhouse, until they got able and they built another room for the little children to stay in. But on them 2 or 3 years I got out there, I liked the trimmer in the 1st grade and 2nd grade. I went to 3rd grade when I was about 8 years old.
What about, did your parents talk to you about their days? Did they ever recall some of their involvement, I guess, in the 1800s, the latter 1800s?
Yeah.
Were they children of slaves, or were they?
No, my parents wasn't slaves, but, their parents.
That's what I'm saying, their parents. Did they talk about that to you? Did you ever know any of that?
Oh, yes. My mother, see, I knew my grandmother and my grandfather on my mother's side. But on my father's side, I did not know his mother nor either his father. Because I think he said his father died when he was 14 years old. And his mother died when he was about 21, I believe he said. Now, they were older than my mother's people were. Because he said he had 1 or 2 sisters that were born back in slavery time. And he was born 80-something. I don't forgot just exactly what it was. He told me. And and my mother's. Oh, yes. My mother said that her grandfather, the white people back in slavery time, they taught him how to lay brick. They had chimneys built to houses mostly way back then, as she said. And he was a good bricklayer.
I see.
And on holidays, what they had then and everything, they would give him ham bone to eat. He made so much money, you know, building them chimneys and things like that. And when the war was over, you know, the old Civil War, he had made money. And she said after that, they told her this, and she had their people was raised so much, they raised cotton. And when the war was going on, the old masters had them to hide that cotton out in the woods. You know, the country wasn't open up then. And right after that, she said when cotton was 20 cents a pound, you know, when you sell a bale of cotton. And got a 500-pound bale of cotton, and that would bring you what? 20 cents, 500, what is that about?
About $100, $10, yeah.
Yeah.
$100.
Yeah, that was going to bring you $100. Well, when they had 4 or 5 of them bales of cotton, they had some money. Now, this is the black people. They had those, see, some of those monsters got killed, a whole lot of them. Her grandfather, he had enough money that he put it in the bank, and the white people took it away from him. The bank went down, she said. This was
in Arkansas, so this,
no,
I guess...
this is in Mississippi.
Mississippi, so this was under the Confederacy, I guess, at that point. You know?
Yeah.
And so when the South fell, I guess all of it fell with it.
Sure. And you know, some of our slave people, when the war was over with and everything was settled down, they bought land and things like that. Now, my grandfather on my daddy's side bought 106 acres of land.
In Mississippi?
In Mississippi. That was in Crenshaw's, Mississippi. That was in the hills of Mississippi, they say.
Is it still in the family today?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Because they did not take it care of. They all moved away and left it alone. But one brother died only.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. I want each of the interviewees to maybe sum up a question that you might have.
Well, I would like to ask you, for being one of the eldest member of our church, you know, to be at Mount Moriah, what does the 35th anniversary mean to you?
What does it mean to me? Oh, well, it means quite a bit to me. To see where the church has, how it has progressed in their 35 years. And then when you look back, we know we didn't come here to stay always. And think about those people that's dead and gone. Because, you see, I have 2 daughters that's gone. And they were not old when they died. 24 is not old. And well, that was when my middle daughter died. and some of the members that she didn't live to get to enjoy nothing that was went on very much because she was real young. Now, my oldest daughter who died, she was 42, I believe, when she died. She got to live to enjoy some of the things and that. And she did love the cathedral choir. And I did love to hear her sing What a Friend We Have in Jesus, when Mrs. Barnes used to play there. And she could sing that song real well when Mrs. Barnes played it.
Mrs. Bourne was one of the leaders of the cathedral choir, is it?
Yeah, she was the one started the cathedral choir. And her name was Savannah. I told her, I said, you can sing that song real well, but look like to me you sing it better when Mrs. Barnes plays it than you do anybody else plays it. And when Reverend Mannings was living, there was another song she used to sing. She sang, they asked her to sing it when they funeralized him, and she sang the song, but she never would sing that song anymore after that.
Do you have one question, Tabia? Would you like to?
Yes, I want to know, are you proud of Mount Moriah's accomplishments, or do you think there should be, is there more that needs to be done?
Well, it's always room for improvement. We could say that. Yes, I am proud of that, and the present pastor has come and made quite a good progress there. He has done well with the congregation for it to be going and coming, a lot of times.
Well, Ms. McKenzie, I'm really amazed at your ability to recall all of the information. I found that, particularly the aspect of the, you remembered on the Civil War being really outstanding. As we approach the 35th anniversary, I think that there is a long program being planned. It's from May 12th through the 18th, and we have a lot of activities that are coming up. I think the youth are going to be involved. What would you like to see happen in the next 35 years with Mount Moriah? What
would I like to see happen in the next 35 years? Well, look, I would like to see things improve.
Okay.
As I said, nothing stays the same all the time. I don't want you don't stay at a standstill.
Right.
You're either going back or you're going forward.
Right.
So I'd like to see it go forward.
Keep going forward. Yes. Right. Is there one other thing that you'd like to end?
Well, I'd like to thank her
for
letting us take a stroll down memory lane with you.
Oh, thank you.
Tabia?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, and I would too. I'd like to thank you also. As I said before, this is part of a larger project that we're doing, and we are interviewing people from various aspects of our community, talking about some of the very same things that you all have talked about today. We want to look at other churches as well and look at some of the other institutions, things like the NAACP and the beginning of it, and the Urban League and some of those other kinds of projects. So we have so much history here in Milwaukee that we need to really capture and recover. So again, we'd like to thank you, and we thank our audience for listening and attending.
Thank you.